this isn't a proof. It has been thoroughly debunked by many people researching this.
And then those false claims always get debunked by our side. Every single time. Hi, I'm the Triggered Limey and welcome to the first ever episode of
Wanker Wednesday.
Today's topic is a first for this channel as we look at Phuket word. So let's not stand on ceremony and instead just jump straight on into whatever bollocks this guy is peddling today.
Hello, Flat Earth researchers, debaters and debunkers.
Holy shit, how quiet is that? Hang on a second. Mate, your audio skills are worse than mine and that's saying something. Your loudness is like 20 decibels lower than it should be. Now obviously I have had many an audio issue in the past, so shouldn't really be saying shit to be fair. But as I became an audio expert last night whilst I couldn't sleep, I just figured we'd kick this off with someone else's ineptitude. Let's just...
Hello, Flat Earth researchers, debaters and debunkers.
There, that's better. I've sped him up by 50% too, as we have a whole steaming heap of bullshit to wade through today. I will not be doing the full video because his video alone is like half an hour long, and obviously if I cover the whole thing, we're probably looking at 40 to 50 minutes, or even sped up 30 to 40. Now, before we carry on, I just want to check something. I'm not convinced that Phuket Word isn't Eric Debey's dad, you know. Anyway, enough dawdling about. We should really see what this video is about, shouldn't we? So, take it away, you prick.
I came across this link. 3 experiments that prove the Earth is round to celebrate Science Day 2020 by proving the Earth is not flat. So,
I know, sunshine. Ridiculous that in this day and age we need to actually show people that the earth isn't flat when most of us actually paid attention in school and learned how to determine it for ourselves when we were only knee-high to a grasshopper. Since apparently you're supposed to be about 9 foot tall, you should have had plenty of time to cement that knowledge into your dense noggin as opposed to following your fellow down the rabbit hole.
Let's have a look at what's being said here and the proposed experiments. If you scroll down here, we've got the usual ridiculous kind of imagery where we've got a CGI globe here, and then this idea that the Earth is a flat disk floating around in space. So, of course, that immediately sends you off into this false dichotomy.
Yes, people use images to help explain what they're talking about. It's nothing new. It's been going on for a bloody long time. And since Flat Earth is bollocks, why not poke a little fun at it too?
And it says here that Flat Earthers drive rational people nuts.
Too right you do. Not only are you spreading these false claims to masses of gullible idiots, especially online, but now some of you are even targeting children on TikTok, Riley. Luckily, most kids are smarter than you Rantalian tossers.
A physicist even offers 3 experiments to confirm it is those people who are crazy, not you. The experiments, however, do require a belief in mathematics.
This flirt is probably snickering now because the conspiratorial mindset sees the word belief and instantly thinks that they're trying to push the globe model without proper evidence. What is actually being said is that you basically need to trust the maths. And since numbers don't lie, that shouldn't be a problem. Yet it still is with these twats. They think that these equations were created to fool the masses. All this does is further prove that they don't understand because you can try these observations and calculations at any point on Earth and still get the same results. Something that doesn't work on a flat Earth. The only reason that these motherfuckers still carry on is because none of them want to be proven wrong. So don't even try the experiment.
Alright then. So, happy World Science Day. It's been a rough year for old science, which probably hasn't been under attack by so many people since the last Dark Ages. Conspiracy theorists at heart, anti-maskers, anti-vacciners.
What the Guess he's worried about having his video taken down. Makes me wonder, all these fraggles that think their channels are getting nuked because they talk about flat Earth, if they really thought that was true, wouldn't they start using a different term like, I don't know, Bev and his level Earth nonsense? Guess they probably know that this really isn't the reason. Hashtag gotta lie to flirf.
And perhaps most unbelievably of all, flat earthers have been loudly calling into question the pretty much unquestionable. So when you look at a paragraph like that as an introduction, you can see straight off that, yeah, it's one of those things that is unquestionable, isn't it? It's alleged to be an established scientific fact.
It's not alleged, you nugget. It's been demonstrated multiple times. The observations and experiments are repeatable. It's just that you're too dumb to understand or too dishonest to admit that you do and you've been proven wrong.
I would say manufactured consensus that the Earth is a spinning globe, and
of course you would, because you're a
and well, we'll see what these kind of experiments are in a minute, but just think about that. Yeah, we're not allowed to question the science of the that's been used to prove the globe. And it goes for those other things I mentioned. We're not allowed to question the science of masks or the science of the gene therapy that is being pushed upon us, that we are being coerced into. So
hear me, please, you total bellend. Nobody is saying that you can't question the science. In fact, that's normally how we make a lot of scientific breakthroughs. We question them and we look at them in a different way, especially as technology advances. You can try these experiments your self though. You can also research the efficacy of masks. Hell, this picture here seems to show that you've used them, hypocrite. And as for your claim of gene therapy, first, YouTube, the Triggered Limey does not promote medical misinformation. We fully support mask wearing and the COVID vaccine. I personally have been double vaccinated and I'm proud of it. So please, leave my video alone. Now, back to this prick. The vaccine cannot change your genetic code, you dickhead. The mRNA or messenger RNA is a single-stranded RNA molecule that enters your system, it quickly dissolves, never entering the nucleus, which is the part of our cells that stores and protects the DNA, the genetic code. More importantly, what it does is when it dissolves, it is able to teach our cells to create an immune response specifically to COVID-19 in this case. Sadly, they become less effective as new variants emerge, but they are still one of the best options we have for fighting this pandemic. Of course, because the mRNA essentially gives your cells a lesson in what to do, I believe this is why you idiots don't trust them, because
learning is bad.
Hell, went on a bit of a rant there. Say, back to this cretin.
Yeah, these people telling you this are not conspiracy theorists. It's a fact that there are conspiracies. People conspire to coerce us into believing certain things, and they pass it off as science. And you know, under this umbrella of science, which we're not allowed to question, is why we get such dogmatic and what's another word to describe the kind of rhetoric that we're getting here? It's just bigoted, it's single-minded, and it's not scientific. It straight away tells you that you are dealing with people that have a faith and a belief in science. And as this person says, you've got to believe mathematics or believe mathematical models.
Hard to find a decent pause there. It's not really a faith or belief in science, at least not in the context that you mean. It's simply realizing that it works. Yes, we have faith that the math is correct and belief in the math being correct because we're able to test it for ourselves. But it's not like a religious doctrine as most flirts try to paint it as. But again, you can do it yourself. And if you don't trust the maths, you can actually break the equations down and begin to understand how they all work. You can even formulate your own equations with the data that you collect through your observations. Plus, to be honest, I don't think the smartest minds in all of history could come close to creating such an elaborate, perfectly connecting set of experiments and mathematics that we can all examine, tear apart, do for ourselves, etc., to pull the wool over our eyes. It just defies belief that you guys could believe in this shit.
So, in any event, we'll go on to read this here. Physicist Stephen Wooding, the guy who brought us the contactable alien civilization calculator, another far-out assumption last spring, has offered up a lovely gift for science on its special day, the flat Earth versus round Earth calculator. We'll go and have a look at that in a second. It consists of 3 experiments that can prove to anyone who believes in math that the Earth really is round. We can probably assume, of course, that there are now people arguing that 2 + 2 = 5. Again, a very ironic statement, assuming that those of us who realise that we're not living on a spinning ball and realise that the belief is propped up with mathematical models are deemed as being stupid, unable to do simple mathematics. And of course, that's what they rely on, mathematical models, and the assumption that if you refuse to understand it or refuse to accept it, it's not a case of not understanding it.
I beg to differ, my pedigree chum. You don't accept it because you don't understand it. This is why I and so many of my fellow realists get so frustrated with you lot. If you thick gits understood a thing, we wouldn't have to keep showing you the error of your ways.
It as a fact, because it's understood that when it comes to the globe, you're just talking about models. That goes for a lot of the flat Earth maps and things that are presented as well. They're not necessarily a truth, they are just...
And don't you think that if the Earth was flat, people would be able to come up with a decent map or model? Why is it that none of the people that are able to do just that sort of thing seem to be finding their way into your ranks? Could it be because they understand the world that we live in? You pillock.
If the Earth really were flat, cats would have long ago pushed everything over its edge. Another ridiculous statement, very far removed from any actual science, which these people claim to be supporting.
I guess this knob doesn't understand sarcasm either.
So be sure to scroll down to the calculator page and blah, blah, blah. So at the top of the calculator page is the select an experiment, a drop-down menu. Let's start with the sunset twice experiment. So again, remember that this was hailed as a proof that we live on a globe. So the fact that you can see a sunset and then gain height to see another sunset is passed off as proof that we live on a globe, when it's a simple fact of perspective that the higher you go above the surface, the further you can see across that surface. And if the sun has gone off into the distance, usually it's cut off by clouds, even if we can't see those clouds on the horizon, which is very, very thin because it's all very far away, and angular size of those clouds is very small. What actually happens is the sun gets cut off by those clouds. So of course, if you gain height from seeing the sunset and being cut off by the clouds, or even just this band of convergence that we see across the surface, then you will see the sun once more. And here we can see a good example of that in that picture itself. You can see that it's quite hazy here, and the sun is setting. It appears to be setting in this photograph way above what would actually be the horizon, maybe. And that's because it's simply getting cut off by a much thicker, dense layer of air that's just above the surface.
Okay, first mistake. The horizon does not always rise to eye level. You can actually measure this and see that this is not the case. Yes, it does look like it, but this just furthermore shows that your eyes are not able to perceive the minute differences when examining the world. You can't even make out the curve of the horizon with your own eyes because it's only a few feet over a few miles at sea level.
Gain height above the surface and you will see the sun again. And you won't be looking down to the sun. And this would apparently be what would happen because the Earth is said to be rolling backwards away from the sun. You actually see the sun in the same place that it is. You just see further because you gain height. I've also done a video on this, so I'll put that video as a link in the description for this one about seeing a sunset twice to explain what I've just said there.
Yeah, at that higher altitude, you're looking down towards the horizon that the sun is going behind. Explain how the f*** that would really work on a flat Earth, because it doesn't.
Wooding notes that you can prove the Earth is round by standing up quickly after the sun goes down and getting ahead of the shadow cast by the horizon, so you can see the sunset a second time. If the planet were flat, once it went over the edge from your first viewing position, it would be gone. So I don't know what they're assuming is what kind of flat Earth model they're referring to there. Are they assuming that we think that there is an edge and then the sun goes down beneath the edge? I mean, again, this just shows a complete lack of understanding of what any so-called flat earther is actually talking about.
Most flat earthers don't even understand what goes on in their complete lack of a model.
You may want to find out the time of sunset before testing out the calculator. There are many places online to find this information. Okay, this gives you a link. To use a calculator, begin by selecting a city in your time zone. Wooding has pre-entered the sunset duration for you, though you can look up the precise value online for your location. Okay, again, it's not denied that it takes longer for the sun to set in somewhere that's far north of the equator than it does on the equator. I live near the equator in Phuket, and it's dark within 20 minutes of dusk, whereas, of course, that can be a lot longer if you're in the north, but this can be easily explained simply by understanding that the sun is further away.
What about when you cross into the southern hemisphere? Things don't add up there at all on a flat Earth. Maybe try to perform some actual calculations. Work out that the sun would somehow have to be in multiple places at once, although it still wouldn't work then. Just like, I don't know, southern hemisphere flight times. You really haven't thought this through, have you?
And so our view of it is different. So, goes on to tell you how to look up, well, again, as I said, we'll have a look at the calculator in a minute. So, apparently, thanks to the curvature of the Earth, you can make an object on a distant lakeshore. Oh, sorry, we're moving on to the second one there. Right, okay. So, yes, thanks to the curvature of the Earth, you can make an object on a distant lakeshore seem to disappear with a change in viewing height. You'll need binoculars for this one and a lake. The calculator will tell you how much of the object will become unobservable after you fill in the three values. And you may also need a boat to do that. And again, this is something that, of course, many people researching flat Earth and looking into this have done. There are many, many, many observations made across water and across land that show we can indeed see much further than the mathematical model for a globe would allow us to do. So, okay, this isn't a proof. It has been thoroughly debunked by many people researching this.
And then those false claims always get debunked by our side. Every single time. I wonder why.
And it says for this one, you'll need a cooperative friend who lives... so the next one, this is the third so-called proof of a globe. You'll need a cooperative friend who lives at least some distance away, or a teleporter. Also, 2 sticks and a day with enough sunlight to cast shadows in both locations. This experiment involves measuring shadows cast at 2 different locations and calculating the angle between them to arrive at the Earth's circumference. This experiment is a little advanced mathematically, and Wooding offers a link if you are confused. Again, this goes to the Eratosthenes experiment, which is cited as proof that we live on a globe, assuming that the circumference is around a sphere, when of course you can easily assume that a circumference is around a level Earth, and it's just talking about the circumference of the sun above the equator.
So how come none of you jizz stains have demonstrated this? For a start, it wouldn't work on your flat Earth, even with a local sun. Try it. Not to mention that, if it did work, you should be able to calculate where the sun is. None of you have done that either. This tells me that you either A, didn't try the experiments, but instead just dismissed them from the off, or B, you're a lying.
So even if you can work out that or calculate the circumference of the sun's path, it doesn't dictate that it's happening above a spherical Earth. It it can just as easily be going on above a level plane. So
no, it really can't. But again, feel free to perform this experiment with a friend or two if you have any, and let us all know your results. I'm eagerly waiting, you pleb.
Let's now go and have a look at this calculator. So here we go, the flat versus round Earth calculator. This is the drop-down menu that they were talking about. So we've got these 3 experiments here: sunset twice, disappearing object, and stick shadows. So the sunset twice. If the Earth is round, you'll be able to see part of the sun set twice. You do this by moving upwards faster than the shadow cast by the horizon. Let's calculate how much of a second sunset you should see. And there it goes. You've got your location, the sunset duration, and some different things you can put in here: the starting height, travel time, ending height, and the amount you could see. Okay, so fair enough. This might well work out to be true, because the times that the sun sets, the length of time that it takes to set, that's not disputed. It's worth pointing out that nothing about any observation that we make is disputed, whether it is the times or the locations that you can see certain things happening. It is all about interpreting that data,
which you lot fail at miserably. Purkit Word goes on to talk about these experiments and how he claims they work on a flat Earth too, which they don't. And frankly, I can't be bothered to go through the rest of his video because it would turn this into a massive long one, which most people probably won't sit through. I will be skipping Manic Monday next week to give me time to continue learning this editing software and hopefully get a little ahead on video creation. I really do need to keep that one fortnightly for now. My next video will be episode 2 of Wanker Wednesday next week, which has no target as of yet. I'm looking to step away from flat Earth for at least a little bit. So any requests or ideas for a subject are more than welcome. You can pop them into the comments down below or DM them to me on Discord. Lastly, as I'm unable to work until my surgery, and maybe not even for a while then, I'm seriously trying to make a career out of YouTube. If you would like to help me continue to make better content, please consider joining my Patreon for as little as £1 a month, or by making a one-time donation via PayPal. Alternatively, you can visit my new merch store. I only have a couple of designs there at the moment, but we'll be adding much more over the next few days. For now, I have this Triggered Limey sweatshirt and this terribly exciting Santa Limey hoodie, just in time for the holiday season. Follow the link in the description and use code TRIGGERED1, that's triggered and the number 1, it should be on screen right now, to get a whopping 20% off. This code is valid for the rest of the year, expires on the 1st of January 2022. As always though, a massive thanks from me simply for viewing my content. It always means the world to me. I'm loving this YouTube journey. This is something that I'm incredibly passionate about, and I appreciate all of the critiques as well, because it's only going to improve my content. So anything that you think I should change, or even if it's just something that you think I'm doing well so I know to keep doing it, please feel free to let me know. All right, better stop this shit before I get emotional. Yeah, to hear me explaining to Oakley and Co in a response video about how to actually carry out the Eratosthenes experiment, watch this next. I'm the Triggered Limey, and I'm out.